Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of the Lake Norman Woman podcast. I'm so excited to be here today. I am Mamie Lee, editor-in-chief of Lake Norman Woman magazine, and I'm here with my co-host, Katie Stankiewicz. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
And not just today, every day. Every episode you're going to be here. We're not going to be here every single day, but we'll be here every week, bringing you the stories of women of Lake Norman. So thank you so much for joining us. And I would really just love for anyone who hasn't met you yet, who doesn't already love you, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Well, I love how you said that, who haven't met me yet, because there are so many people and we're all 2 degrees of separation, and there are so many connections in this Lake Norman area. But I am Katie Stankiewicz. I founded Willow Equine back in 2012, which we provide ground-based counseling and healing out at our farm with our horses. So it's different than going to the office. It's different than doing a traditional team building session. It's really about being able to step outside, have a deep breath of fresh air, and reconnect with nature and animals, which we're supposed to be doing. We just get too busy.
I think humans were made to make connections with nature and animals, right? And when we get back to that, whether it's setting your feet on the beach or spending time with one of your horses, like it really does bring you back to what humans were made for.
Because if you think about it, for thousands of years, it's always been humans and nature. Yeah. And then there are animals intertwined into that. And it's been within, the last couple hundred years where there's been more development, there's been more jobs, world looks different than it has, and we've lost that connection. And slowly but surely, I really think we're on this precipice of shifting back into reconnecting. And that is one good thing that COVID did, is it reminded people, hey, there are nature trails. Hey, you can go outside, take a deep breath of fresh air. And so that reconnection is so important.
Yeah, it's one of the blessings of COVID. Is like being outside is a gift that we need to remember to slow down and spend those times outside. We spent more time on the lake during COVID than I probably ever have in my adult life, really. Like just because we had the opportunity to reconnect to nature. And for me, being near the water, being near the lake, that really energizes me and feeds my soul. I feel like the same way it does for you with the horses that you work with being outside with them.
Well, and that's what's so funny is like I'll go on vacation and then after about a week, I'm like, okay, I need to get back to the farm. And then I get to the farm and it's the same as with my clients. Like I take that deep breath of air and I'm like, okay, we're here, we're back. This is normal. This is good. And so it's really challenging sometimes when you get out of your normal routine to then when you come back, it's like, oh yeah, this is important. This has to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to dig way more into in our next segment about who you are and what you do and how you got involved, because I think it's such an interesting story how you got involved with the horses, because that's not really what you did before. You completely changed careers, which I think is so cool and very interesting. And a lot of women listening want to know how you can shift your career from one to the other. But tell us a little bit more about Katie. Like, who are you? I know you didn't grow up here, but you're a local now. I think you can claim us as local. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about Katie and who she is.
Yeah, I've actually been down here now longer than I was in Massachusetts. So I was born and raised in Massachusetts. Oh, wow. I came down for a summer. I ended up getting a job and buying a house. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to stay. And that was 23 years ago, 22 years
Oh, yeah,
ago.
you're local. Yeah, after 12 years, I think you can, as long as you like being here.
I do.
Really
I love
caveat. It's like after 12 years, that's the limit. You can consider yourself a local, but you also have to enjoy being here. So if you're constantly talking about how much better it was where you came from or how much better everybody else does everything, then no, you don't get the stamp.
And I think what's so interesting is I was always that person that I loved my hometown. My whole family lives on the same street. We're super close. It's a small little town. I loved it. And then my journey unfolded, not like I ever envisioned. And now I look back and I'm like, I can't imagine living in my hometown.
Yeah.
Which I think is a true blessing because it means that life has brought me where I need to be.
Well, and you grew out of that home, that small town and you grew on to bigger and better things, and it doesn't mean that you aren't still thankful for, because my story is the same, right? I grew up in a very small town and I just outgrew that town. I didn't know how big or great my life could be, but the same kind of thing. So what do you like to do other than spend time with your horses? What's your other favorite things to do?
I honestly love to read. I love to write, and anything that my daughter and our friends can do together. So in the wintertime, it's bonfires, backyards, very low key. The summertime, we love going out on the lake, like going hiking. It's really that simple things in life that really fill our hearts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. I love that. And that's something we found too, just us hanging out, preparing this podcast. We have you and I have a lot in common. There's so much, and our stories have really like traveled and interweaved and intertwined in so many different ways. And I think that's so cool because once you start sharing your story, then you find out that there's so many other people who have been through similar experiences, whether it's somebody who is ahead of you and can give you advice on what it looks like 5 or 10 years down the road, or somebody who's just starting and you can give them advice on, hey, this is where I was when I was in your same stage, and I can look forward and I can help you know, like, yeah, it might be tough now, but just keep working on it and you'll get to a more beautiful place and you'll learn so much along the way.
Well, and even when you have friends that have been on similar journeys, and for us connecting, as we were talking, it was similar roads through divorce or raising your children or health issues or kind of figuring out what our next chapter is. We can sit down and hold these conversations and have it be simply holding space for each other.
Yeah, and we want to create a space too where women can hear each other's stories, right? And connect on deeper levels. Because women and moms especially can live this solitary existence because it's so easy, whether you're a single mom or you're a working mom or you stay at home, it's very easy to like get in your bubble and think nobody else has been here, nobody else has experienced these things that I'm going through. But then when you open up, like I said before, and start sharing your story, you realize, okay, other people have experienced this and maybe they have some advice, or maybe I can give some advice on what I've been through as well.
And I think too, when we get in these spaces, like you said, you have the stresses, you have the anxieties or the hustle and bustle. There are other mental health components that play into it. And that isolation is what makes it safer and safer and safer and safer. But we need this community. It kind of goes back to that nature piece. We've always lived in community, and women have always had sacred circles that we've sat in. And again, here lately, we've lost that, but we're bringing it back together. And that's what's important.
Yeah, I think that's the other side of COVID. Created a lot of isolation, right? It created a lot of that, like we're not getting together. More people are working from home rather than working in an office. And so we need to like work to create that community. So hopefully if you're listening, you're able to join our community, whether virtually or in person, or, you know, just listening to the podcast or listening on the app. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be back after some messages from our sponsor, Willow Equine and Soul Connection. And Katie, to hear more about you. I'm so excited to learn more about you.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Thanks.
Dreaming of starting your own podcast but don't have the space or gear? The WSIC Podcast Studio has everything you need to bring your content to life. With multiple sets that can be tailored to fit your needs, state-of-the-art lighting, and camera equipment, you'll be ready to create high-quality content. Need a photography studio? We've got you covered with our professional cyclorama wall. Bring your own camera and let our expert producers handle it. Email social@WSICnews.com to schedule your tour today. The WSIC Podcast Studio, where your ideas come to life. Looking for deeper self-discovery and emotional growth? Soul to Soul Connection offers supportive space where horses help you understand your inner world in ways traditional talk therapy can't. Our certified professionals guide you through meaningful experiences that foster reflection, healing, and renewed perspective. Best of all, these services are offered at low or no cost for veterans, first responders, and their families. Learn more at healingwithhorseslkn.org and start your journey toward greater well-being today.
Imagine a home where every inch is designed just for you. At The Closet Niche, they create custom solutions based on your specific needs. From closets to build-ins, garages to wall beds, their locally created solutions deliver functionality and elegance. With a lifetime warranty, best price guarantee, and award-winning service, you'll see why they've won Best of the Lake 2 years running. Get your space reimagined. Visit theclosetniche.com today.
And welcome back to the Lake Norman Woman Podcast. Mamie Lee here with Katie Stankiewicz again. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited that you're here with us today. Katie, I want everyone to hear your story because it is so fascinating that you run a farm that is, focused on healing with horses, but that's not really your background. That's not how you got started. You didn't start out as a therapist, or I guess you always, had horses and always loved horses, but that really wasn't the start of your career. And I think for women listening, how do I navigate if I'm in something I don't love? How do I get to something that I can love and am passionate about? So I want you to start with what brought you down to North Carolina. and then kind of tell us your story from there.
Well, and that's one thing I do tell people. I'm like, no one could ever connect my dots. And I think that's almost what's fun about it is that we think we want this path that's straight. And even though there's that visual where it's going in circles and loops and back and forth, is your journey's going to unfold however it's supposed to. And so for me, I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts. I was going to be a marine biologist. So my parents bought
Just like every other girl in the 90s, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There was
girl in the
actually
90s.
a thing
Lisa
on social
Frank.
media where it was like Lisa Frank and the dolphins.
Yes.
Everyone was going to be a marine biologist.
Yes, Lisa Frank inspired us all.
Yep. So that was my trajectory. And my parents bought a house in Florida so I could go to college down there. And then I started working at a racing school. So the Finish Line Racing School was the organization.
And what were you doing for the racing school?
A little bit of everything.
Okay.
I was doing
Were you going to be a
office work.
driver? Were you going to be a pit crew? What did you want to do with that?
So we actually had a family-owned and operated race team in Massachusetts in 1980. So I always grew up in the garage with my uncle and his friends, and we were always at the racetrack. Never did I think anything beyond like, this is a fun hobby, kind of like my horses too, is this is what we do, but this isn't a career. So we moved to Florida. I get the job at the racing school. I'm working on the cars. We're having test time at the track. I'm doing office work as well. And through that, you make different connections. The 2 degrees of separation, you never know who you're talking to. And just by sheer work ethic and me being me, as oblivious as I can be sometimes, is that transferred into, hey, Katie, do you want to come to the track with us? Hey, would you race with us? It was then the Hooters Pro Cup Series. And so I started traveling with Mike Laughlin Jr. in the Pro Cup Series. And I was like, okay, like this is cool. School kind of got put on the back burner. I kept going, but I wasn't on the...
Wasn't your number one.
Wasn't the number one. And I'm like, I'm young. Let's see how this unfolds. And so this summer, I moved up here on my 19th birthday. Left Florida, packed up my car, drove up here. I was just going to hang up for a summer. And it was a center location to race out of. I had every intention.
You moved straight to Mooresville?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep. Straight to Mooresville, straight to the condos at Exit 33. I moved in with my boyfriend at the time and his friend. We lived on the lake and enjoyed every ounce that the lake has to offer in the summertime.
Oh gosh, 19 living on the lake. I mean, that's living the life.
It was fabulous.
That is fantastic.
It was fabulous.
That's probably the first year I was 19, the first summer that I came up to Lake Norman too. It was fantastic.
And it's so different than the small town I grew up in.
Oh yeah.
We don't have lakes. We don't have the craziness that is Lake Norman. But it was amazing because it was like you had the structure and the discipline of racing and the heavy schedule of racing. And yet then we also had this amazing community of friends and we had downtime, which was unheard of. And so it kind of came to the point where I was supposed to be going back to school. And then I got another job offer from RE Suspension and went to work with Jason and Butch in 2003. And so blessed to still have them be an important part of my life. And so I was building shocks for them. And then
So you were still just doing a little bit of everything then? Like within the racing?
No, in racing, it was primarily working on the cars.
Okay.
Yep. At that point, I had transitioned where I was a mechanic working on the cars, pit crew, going over the wall.
That's not usually a female-focused career either.
No.
So, yeah, I'm sure that was challenging. It had its own challenges for sure.
It was because there was, there's those little voices in the back, not of my head, but of other people saying, what's she doing here? Or she has ulterior motives or whatever stories they want to create about me. And I'm like, no, I'm just here doing what I love, doing what I'm good at and having fun while I do it. And so then in 2004, we were contracted with Junior Motorsports to build their shocks for, again, their Pro Cup team. And it was just, again, being watched for who I was. And Willie Jackson, who's Dale Jr.'s stepdad, and Steve Crisp, who was our general manager at the time, came up to me and they're like, hey, we're starting a Busch team, which is now the Xfinity Series. And they said, we're going Busch racing in 2005. Would you come work for us? And so as the kid that grew up racing and someone who's been in the sport for so long, the top 3 tiers ideally are usually where you want to end up. And then on top of it, you have the most famous driver in Dale Earnhardt Jr., having you come to work for you. It's like, oh, okay. Never did I envision any of this. And I was so blessed to work at Junior Motorsports from when we started in 2005 to then, I like to say I retired. I didn't quit, but I retired in 2012. But they're all still family. And I think that's what people don't necessarily understand with racing is that we are competitors, but we're family. And the bonds that we make and the times that we've spent together is so much deeper than what's on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very cool. Okay. And so then you retire from motorsports.
Yep.
And then you're like, and now I'm going to start a horse therapy program. Was it like day one to day one?
No.
Or last day to first day?
Some like transition in there. Probably around 2010, I was like, okay, I want to do more with horses. And in actually 2009, I had been introduced to one of the models of therapy that we practice, which combined ground-based mental health with horses. And there was ethics, there was practices, there was principles, there was structure around what I naturally had been doing my whole life without a therapist, but that the horses had always brought me. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So in 2009, I actually went and got certified, not knowing how or when this was going to fit into
just something
a racing career.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is amazing. And so then I started slowly building the idea of Willow Equine. And then like every good story, there's a tragedy. And in November of 2011, my uncle was killed in a hunting accident. So we were racing in Texas. It was actually his birthday, and we were flying home. And when I flew home, my husband at the time, or boyfriend at the time, he had the daunting task of telling me that he had been killed.
Gosh.
Yeah. So Uncle Pete was just in his backyard doing what he loved. And someone did not verify their target and just shot at movement. And so in an instance, our close-knit family was devastated. And so that kind of was that precipice moment of, what am I doing? Like, yes,
it really
there's
does.
so many accolades.
It does. It makes you like step back and say, when you go through a tragedy and an unexpected one, on top of it, is like, what am I doing with my life? And what do I want to do with my life? Like, what are the things that are the most important to me?
And that was the biggest thing is we have a close-knit family. My family means the world to me. And yet with racing, I had sacrificed so much. Holidays, birthdays, vacations, just time with them. And I was like, something's got to shift. And so I finished out the 2011 season and then went in and talked to Pops that off season. And I was like, I don't want to leave the organization because I've been at Junior Motorsports since we started. And yet I also need to there has to be a shift. We have to have a rebalance here. And it ended up that it just worked out best that I left in February of 2012. I still worked in racing for a couple of teams, just like quietly on the side. But that's where I was like, okay, we're going to make a difference. And that's where Willow Equine started.
Wow, that's incredible. And just incredible to see, like, a lot of us go through tragedy in our lives, right? A lot of us have, I think like COVID was one shared experience, right? That really did make everybody to say, all right, maybe I haven't had a traumatic death in my life, but we all went through this traumatic time together. And it's going to make me like rethink and reshift. And a lot of people reshifted their priorities, where they lived, what was working from home versus working in an office, traveling versus what can I do virtually? It really was a huge shift in our worldview, really, not just the United States, but everywhere across the world. We really did look back and see. So I appreciate you mentioning that, because I think that's something that so many people have experienced, and they don't know what to do with that experience.
It doesn't have to be this huge traumatic death.
No.
It can be something small, but it makes you think.
I mean, it can be the ending of a relationship. My daughter who just went off to college, what are these life changes, or even having a new baby or having a new child in your family, getting married, like these shifts in your life that can make you rethink and think, all right, what do I really want to do with my life, and what's really going to fulfill me the most?
What's my sole purpose?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, we're going to take another quick break. Thank you, Katie, for being here. We'll get to know you a little bit more and find out more about Willow Equine and Soul to Soul when we come back.
Sounds good.
Ready to create your podcast, video, or photo shoot? The WSIC Studio is your one-stop shop for all your content needs. We offer multiple sets that can be tailored to fit your vision, along with state-of-the-art lighting and camera equipment. Plus, our Cyclorama Photography Studio provides the perfect backdrop for stunning visuals. Bring your own camera or use ours, with expert producers to guide you. Email social@WSIC News today to book a tour. The WSIC Podcast Studios, your content, our expertise.
Are you ready for a fresh approach to healing and personal development? At Willow Equine, our certified professionals offer equine-assisted therapy that harness the powerful connection between horses and humans. We provide counseling, mindfulness, and leadership development tailored to your unique journey. Discover new insights and transform your life through the sensitivity and wisdom of horses. Visit healingwithhorseslkn.org to learn more. And begin your path to well-being today.
Winning Best of the Lake 2 years in a row, The Closet Niche is not only locally owned and operated, but their products are manufactured right here in Lake Norman as well. With a lifetime warranty and best price guaranteed, they deliver stunning, high-quality designs tailored to your specific needs. From closets to pantries, laundry rooms to garages, and more. Their work speaks for itself. Visit theclosetniche.com to get started on your 5-star experience today. Visit theclosetniche.com today.
Welcome back to the Lake Norman Woman Podcast. Mamie Lee here with Katie Stankiewicz, getting to know all about Willow Equine and Soul to Soul. So the last segment, you talked all about your racing, your motorsports history, what brought you to North Carolina. I really want to know, like, that shift that you had to really go out and be an entrepreneur, be a business owner. Like, that's scary. That's a lot of women want to do it. A lot of women are thinking about it, but it is a scary leap to make as a female, as an industry that maybe people aren't even aware of. So tell me about like the process that it took for you to just take that leap into starting your own business and then starting a nonprofit on top of it.
Yeah, it's craziness. It's one of those, but it's a walk of faith.
It is.
And I think that was one of the biggest things that with my husband at the time, he looked at me and he's like, okay, how is this going to work? And I'm like, I don't know, but I knew in my heart, in my gut, that it was going to work. And so it was one of those like, yeah, you're taking a 75% pay cut and you're losing insurance and 401k and all this structure that we're told we have to have and this foundation that we have to have. And I was like, it's going to work. And it was, a little rocky there at first because you're trying to figure out, okay, what does this look like? Mental health with horses, particularly ground-based mental health with horses, is not a cookie-cutter business that is an easy sell.
It's almost like you have to educate the person on what the business is before you can even get a client to agree to it.
Yes, and that was so much of what I was doing at the beginning was talking through what we do. And really, if you think about 10, 12 years ago, mental health was not as discussed as it is now. And so a lot of it was going out and saying, we have to admit that things aren't right sometimes and that it's okay. You don't have to be in crisis to come for mental health. We did a lot of, at the beginning, I did a lot of corporate leadership and corporate team building and did a lot more on that business entrepreneurial building side to kind of get the platform of, look at the power the horses have. We can do it with this child. We can work with corporate leaders and we can work with everybody in between. But that education piece is what was so important. And I know the power of the horses. So you
grew up with horses, right?
Right.
Yeah, so you were already very comfortable. You knew the power that horses had, the healing power that they had.
Yes. Yeah. I would run to the barn when I was mad and I didn't know what they were doing, but I knew I'd leave and I felt better. And so to be able to bring that to people who don't like horses, the majority of our clients
I'll admittedly say that I'm afraid. I'm still afraid of horses.
Yep.
I had a very bad experience as a child, and it would take a lot of just regular therapy to get me even next to a horse before I'm able to stand next to one. Because I think a lot of us who maybe didn't grow up around horses, maybe had one or two experiences on the trail. I mean, mine was a trail ride. My horse got spooked and ran off, and I was probably 8 or 9 years old. So that was my very first experience with a horse, and so I didn't experience the feeling that you're able to bring to people with your organization.
And I think that was one of the biggest things once they understood. And one of the organizations we belong to is worldwide. And so one of the foundational goals for that organization is really bringing awareness. It's going places and talking about the horses. It's bringing awareness to what we're doing. It's bringing awareness to mental health. So it's like this multi-level platform of you're trying to build a business, but I also have to educate as well. And it all kind of smushed together to, if you had told me in 2010 or even 2012 that this is where Willow Equine would be, I never would have envisioned.
Yeah.
But I'm blessed that, I have an amazing team of therapists. Maria and I have worked together for over 12 years. She's my clinical director. And I joke sometimes it takes a team of 5 therapists to keep me straight, and that's perfectly fine.
That's great. I love it.
But we're blessed to have a team, and everybody has their own specialty. And I think that's what's unique about it, is that yes, you're out in nature, yes, you're out in the farm, but each one of my therapists is so unique in their own gifts as well. And so being able to be like, okay, if she doesn't feel like the right fit, well, what about Julia? Or what about Lindsay? Or what about Mary? You have options. It's not, here's your box, you have to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then from there, then how long before you started the nonprofit, the Soul to Soul Connection?
So it was actually interesting. It was probably about 5 years, and we were actually approached by a rec therapist out at the Salisbury VA. And she said, hey, I've heard about this equine therapy thing that they're starting to do with people, but also with veterans. Could we bring our elderly veterans that live at the VA out for some fresh air and time with the horses? And I said, sure, absolutely. Like, we were just going to donate our time. I thought the farm was perfectly set up until you get 10 veterans in wheelchairs and you realize, the rustic nature of a farm is not necessarily wheelchair friendly. But we made it work, and it was phenomenal. And to this day, we still have that same contract with the VA and the residents that live at the hospital. So that's fun to see. And we have some veterans that have been here from 2017, and they're still coming out to the farm.
That's amazing. And I think what you've said, off mic, what we've talked about before is like some of these veterans who have never talked about their experience, have never really dealt with some of the trauma. I mean, we've seen in the news, the PTSD and the issues that some of these veterans go through. They don't have any way to deal with it after. My husband, who's a veteran, says all the time, he says, they prepare you to be a soldier. They don't prepare you to be a civilian. And I think that's something that's missing, and I think organizations like yours and other ones that we've partnered with as well that have done so much to help veterans, I think is really, really special. So you guys can equip these veterans who are coming out of these extreme combat situations or this PTSD to really deal with their emotions that they have, because there's some big feelings, especially think about veterans who go in at 17, 18, 19 years old, and their brains are still forming.
Well, and so many that have joined the military have had colorful pasts in their families that probably have pushed them to, okay, well, if I join the military, this is at least a different path for me.
Right.
So you're having all this trauma as a child and then just shifting it to, okay, well, we're not going to deal with the childhood trauma, and now we're going to ask you to do the unfathomable, and we're not going to allow you to have any emotion, and we're not going to provide any support. It's the recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Do you have any stories that you could tell? I mean, you don't have to mention any names specifically, but any stories you could tell about anybody that's come out to the farm and like the healing that they've experienced?
I think the one of the gentlemen that sticks out in my head, he was probably one of the first veterans we had once we started Soul to Soul. And he was this big, huge guy, and he had just come back from multiple tours overseas, and it was imperative for him to walk every inch of our farm. Now, our farm is 60 acres.
Oh, wow.
And you could tell, like, I know my farm and I know who's around and what's around. His awareness to every inch of the farm and every movement was outstanding. And even like Maria, one of my therapists, and I said, like, it's amazing of how he knows someone's following him. And that's what he said. He kept looking over his shoulder. And our black percheron named Lady followed him in the shadows. If you looked in the woods, you never would have seen her. But she followed him.
The horse followed him the whole farm.
The whole way. And it wasn't until like the end of it where he said, she's been following me. But yeah, she's been with you on this whole journey. But there's a distance there. She was staying in the woods while he was out in the open. And he said, yeah, he knows I'm a monster. And he identified himself as a monster for the things that he was expected to do overseas. Yeah. And he didn't share about it. He kept referring to himself as the monster. And when he said, she knows I'm the monster, was his exact words, that's when she came out of the woods.
Oh, wow.
And so she emerged from the
I just got chills. Like how intuitive the animal was to his feelings and his emotions. Wow. That's amazing.
So she emerged from the woods, and we had a little further discussion about releasing what he had to do to survive, what the expectation was, talking through not the details behind of what he did, but just kind of the story around those actions. And as he opened up little by little, he wasn't very talkative, she inched her way closer to him. So then by the end of the session, they walked from the bottom of our field or our farm all the way up the hill together to the barn.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow, what great work you're doing, and just so thankful to the entire veteran community. I'm sure thanks you for what you've done. It's just absolutely amazing. And then what you're able to do with your, with Willow Equine too, what you're able to do to help people who are dealing with trauma every single day.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that everybody's experienced trauma. Yeah. So often we expect trauma or PTSD to be, well, it's just the military. No, it's first responders.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's moms, it's dads, it's kids. It's everybody in between. We've all experienced some degree of trauma.
I think military too, their spouses.
Oh, absolutely.
Children, right? Mm-hmm. Who have dealt with their parent, their spouse being away, maybe not knowing if they're safe, what they're going through, or if they do get injured, what that feels like as well. So,
and then when they come back.
Yeah. And what it's like to reintegrate, right? I've been living this life with me and my family without you here. Now you're back. And how do we make that work again? Right. So yeah, gosh, just so amazing. So I can't wait to get to know you better, get to know you more, hear more stories too from the farm. Just absolutely amazing. But one thing that we are going to do for every episode is we're going to ask 3 questions to end the episode. So you get to answer them today for our very first episode. Number 1's an easy one. What's your favorite thing about Lake Norman? That's the area, not just the water, but the entire area of Lake Norman. What's your favorite?
I have to say I love the community.
Yeah.
Because whether it's business owners, whether it's families, there's always a place and there's always something going on. We're so patriotic. The events that go on in downtown Mooresville and downtown Cornelius, the downtowns have so much to offer. Absolutely. And I think that's what's so much fun, is it's from walking the state park to going to a big event. There's something to do for everybody.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true of this area. They do so much and there's always something to do.
Yes.
Number 2 question is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It sounds cliche, but it's truly to have faith in yourself. Because it's really just been this last year on a different training that I've been going through, or lifestyle that I've been going through, is that they're like, Katie, it's in your heart.
Yeah.
You know who you are, you know what you offer, and you know that the world needs it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think my dad would always say, who you are when your head hits the pillow.
Yep.
Yeah. Know who you are when your head hits the pillow. So whoever that person is, that's who you should be all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever that is, that's who you should always be, and not change yourself for anybody else.
And it's a hard one to live up to.
It is. It is a really, really hard one. Absolutely. And our last question is, what's one of your core values?
Mine is authenticity.
That's so good. It combines great with the advice that you got as well too.
Yeah. And it's one of those that the horses really bring that authenticity out into you, because they tap into what's in our heart. And authentically, we're who we are in our heart.
They know who you are. You don't have to tell them anything.
They know who we are. Mm-hmm. And with that, they're going to draw it out. If you show up authentically in every relationship, there won't be any hiccups, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much. And thank you guys who joined us for the very first episode of the Lake Norman Woman Podcast. You'll get a new episode every single week. And next time you get to interview me. Perfect. I'm excited for that. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys.